Samuel Okafor stood outside the Apex Innovations building, holding a delivery package with trembling hands. 3 years ago, he had owned half of this company. Today, he was here to deliver a package to the man who stole it from him. His name was Tony Ademola. Once they were best friends, brothers, business partners who built Apex Innovations together from nothing. But when Samuel's mother fell sick with cancer and needed 8 million naira for treatment, Tony saw an opportunity. "Sell me your shares," Tony had said. "I'll give you 25 million naira cash today." Samuel was desperate. His mother was dying. He signed without a lawyer, without reading carefully. Only later did he discover the company was worth 500 million naira. And Tony knew it. Within months, Tony pushed him out completely, changed the locks, erased Samuel's name from company history. Now Samuel worked 3 jobs just to survive. Security guard at night, delivery man by day, car washer on weekends. He sent every naira home to his family in the village. They never knew how much he suffered. The receptionist barely looked at him. "Wait there." Samuel waited 2 hours. Finally, he was called to the 3rd floor, to Tony's office. When Samuel entered, Tony glanced up from his phone, then froze. His eyes widened. "Samuel? Samuel Okafor?" Samuel nodded quietly. "Please sign for the package, sir." Tony's shock transformed into cruel delight. He stood, circling Samuel like prey. "You're a delivery man now. You?" Tony laughed loudly. "The same guy who talked about changing Africa with technology." He pulled out his phone and took a photo. "Please don't post that," Samuel said softly. Tony ignored him, calling his staff into the office. "Look who's here! My former partner, now delivering packages." His executives laughed uncomfortably. Tony took his time signing, enjoying every second of Samuel's discomfort. Then he leaned close. "Life rewards the bold, Samuel. The smart, the strong. You were always too soft. That's why you're there." He pointed at Samuel's worn shoes. "And I'm here." Samuel took the signed paper and left silently. As he rode away on his old motorcycle, Tony's laughter echoed in his mind. But Samuel didn't cry. He didn't curse. He just kept moving. Because that's what survivors do. By morning, Tony's post had gone viral. "From partner to package boy. Life lessons. Choose your circle wisely." The post exploded. 5,000 likes in 10 minutes. Comments poured in, most mocking, some pitying. Samuel woke to 47 missed calls. His younger brother. "Brother, people are sharing your photo everywhere. What's happening?" His mother. "Samuel, what is this thing on social media?" Samuel told them not to worry, but the humiliation followed him everywhere. At his security job, his supervisor called him in. "This photo is making people talk. Customers are asking questions." At the luxury estate where he washed cars that weekend, it got worse. A white Range Rover pulled up. Samuel's heart stopped. Tony. Tony stepped out, laughing on his phone. Then he saw Samuel bent over a car with a sponge. "No way! Samuel? Again?" Tony shouted, calling his friends over. "This guy is everywhere. Delivery man on Monday, car washer on Saturday." They stood around Samuel, filming him, laughing. "Wash my car," Tony ordered, pointing at his Range Rover. Samuel hesitated, but needed the money. He washed it. "I see a spot. Wash it again," Samuel washed it again. "And here." 3 times Samuel washed the same car while they laughed. Finally, Tony threw 500 naira on the ground. "Buy common sense with that." Samuel bent slowly and picked it up. He needed every naira. As the guests returned to the party, one woman stayed behind. Elegant, 50s, expensive but simple dress. She handed Samuel a business card. "Mrs. Adebimpe Adeyemi, founder and CEO, Adeyemi Capital Partners." "Call me on Monday," she said gently. "Just call." Samuel stared at the card, confused and hopeful. Monday came. Samuel debated calling. Was it pity? Another trap? Finally, he dialed. "Mrs. Adeyemi has been expecting your call," the assistant said. "Can you come tomorrow at 10 a.m.? The next day, Samuel stood in the marble lobby of Adeyemi Capital's towering building, feeling small and out of place. Mrs. Adeyemi received him warmly in her corner office. "I saw what happened on Saturday," she began. "I watched you being humiliated. And I watched you pick up that money without anger, without bitterness, with dignity." She opened a folder. "So I made some calls. I know who you are, Samuel. I know what Tony did to you." She leaned forward. "I want to offer you a position. Business consultant. 350,000 naira per month to start." Samuel's mind spun. That was more than all 3 jobs combined. "Why me?" he whispered. "Because I've learned that skills can be taught, but character cannot. You have both." She slid a contract across the desk. Samuel signed, hands trembling. For the first time in 3 years, he felt hope. Weeks passed. Samuel started his new job, moved to a better apartment, began healing. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. "Samuel! Guy, how far? I heard you're working with Adeyemi Capital now. Congrats!" Tony's voice. "What do you want?" Samuel asked flatly. "I'm inviting you to my engagement party. Me and Chioma. It's going to be huge. 300 guests, 5-star hotel, celebrities. Come celebrate with me, Guy. Let's bury the past." Every instinct told Samuel it was a trap. But when he mentioned it to Mrs. Adeyemi, she said, "Sometimes walking into a trap with your eyes open is the best way to disarm it. I'll go with you." 2 weeks later, the invitation arrived. Gold embossed, perfumed, excessive. Meanwhile, Tony planned the entertainment with his groomsmen. "I'll call him on stage," Tony explained, grinning. "Show photos of him washing cars, delivering packages. Frame it as motivational. Everyone will see he's a failure." They laughed, excited. Chioma giggled. "This party will trend for weeks." The Grand Royal Hotel glittered under evening lights. Luxury cars lined up. Guests in designer clothes filled the ballroom. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities. Tony and Chioma greeted everyone like royalty. At 7:30 p.m., the doors opened. Mrs. Adeyemi walked in. The room noticed. Everyone knew her name. Beside her, Samuel walked with quiet confidence. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, perfectly fitted. His posture was straight. He didn't look broken. Tony's smile faltered briefly. then recovered. "Samuel, you came!" They shook hands awkwardly. As guests whispered and stared, Samuel and Mrs. Adeyemi sat near the back, calm and observant. The MC took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, our groom has a special moment to share." Tony stepped forward, smiling. "Someone from my past is here. Someone who taught me about resilience. Samuel Okafor, come up here." Every head turned. Samuel stood and walked to the stage. Tony put his arm around Samuel's shoulder. "This is my former partner. Life happened. He faced challenges. But tonight, I want to honor him." Tony nodded to the AV team. A video played. Photos of Samuel in delivery uniform, washing cars, looking tired and poor. Sad piano music. Text appeared. "From partner to perseverance." Some guests laughed nervously. Others looked uncomfortable. The video ended. Tony handed Samuel the microphone. "Any words?" The room held its breath, waiting for Samuel to break. Instead, Samuel smiled. "Thank you, Tony," Samuel began calmly, "for that interesting tribute." The crowd relaxed slightly. "You said I taught you about resilience, but life taught me. It started 3 years ago when you used my mother's illness to steal my company." Gasps spread through the room. Tony grabbed another mic. "That's not true! You're lying!" "I have the documents," Samuel said quietly. Tony froze. "You bought my shares for 25 million naira when you knew the company was worth 500 million naira. You gave me 1 day to decide. No lawyer. You told me if I didn't sign, I'd get nothing." The room went silent. "I signed because my mother was dying. You counted on it." Mrs. Adeyemi stood and walked to the stage. "I'm Mrs. Adebimpe Adeyemi," she announced. "I've investigated Apex Innovations. What I found was fraud." She pulled out documents. Tony created fake financial records, hid profits, excluded Samuel from investor meetings, signed contracts in his name without permission. She looked at Samuel. "You're entitled to 50% of Apex's current value, plus damages. Approximately 1.2 billion naira." The crowd erupted. Chioma staggered. "1 point what?" A man stood from the back, Mr. Bello, Tony's former accountant. "I have proof of everything," he said, holding up a USB drive. "The fake reports, the hidden accounts, the emails where Tony discussed getting rid of Samuel before he figures out the real value." The room exploded in chaos. Guests pulled out phones, cameras flashed. Chioma ripped off her engagement ring and threw it at Tony. "You lied to me! We're done!" She stormed out. Tony stood frozen, his white tuxedo now looking like a costume. The party collapsed. Guests fled. The band stopped. Samuel felt no joy. Just closure. Mrs. Adeyemi placed a hand on his shoulder. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," Samuel whispered. "But I will be." The lawsuit was brutal, but decisive. The court ruled in Samuel's favour. 400 million naira in damages, 45% of future profits, criminal charges against Tony. Apex's investors panicked. The board forced Tony out. The company collapsed and was sold. Tony's mansion was seized, cars repossessed, accounts frozen. He moved to a small apartment, took a sales job for 80,000 naira per month. Chioma married someone else within 3 months. Samuel used the settlement to start Second Chance Ventures, helping failed entrepreneurs restart. He didn't buy mansions or luxury cars. He operated from a modest office, dressed simply, lived humbly. He built his mother a house, sent his siblings to university, paid back everyone who was kind to him. The delivery manager who treated him fairly? 500,000 naira bonus. The old woman who tipped him 200 naira? Rent paid for a year. The gate man who let him rest? Children sent to school. Samuel didn't forget, and he didn't become bitter. Mrs. Adeyemi became his mentor and board advisor, guiding him with wisdom. 6 months after the lawsuit, Samuel worked in a coffee shop one Saturday, reviewing business proposals. The door opened. Tony walked in. He looked different, thinner, tired, wearing cheap clothes. He counted coins at the counter, ordering the cheapest coffee. Samuel watched quietly. Tony took his coffee and turned. Their eyes met. Tony froze, looking like he wanted to run. Samuel waved. "Join me." Tony hesitated, then slowly walked over and sat down. Silence hung between them. "How are you?" Samuel asked gently. Tony laughed bitterly. "How do you think? I lost everything. The company, the house, the cars, Chioma, my reputation, everything." Samuel nodded. "I know." "You must be enjoying this," Tony said, unable to meet his eyes. "Why would I enjoy watching you suffer?" Tony looked up, surprised. "Because I destroyed you." "You tried," Samuel said calmly. "But you didn't destroy me. You tested me. And I survived." Tony's voice cracked. "I deserve everything that happened to me." "Maybe," Samuel replied. "But that's not for me to judge." There was a long pause. Then Samuel pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. "We're hiring at Second Chance Ventures. Entry-level position, Business Development Associate, 150,000 naira per month. Same process as everyone else. No special treatment." Tony stared at the card like it was a mirage. "Why?" he whispered. "After everything I did to you." "Because someone gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve it. And I believe people can change. Not everyone does, but some do." Tony picked up the card with shaking hands. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," Samuel replied, standing to leave. As Samuel reached the door, Tony called out, "Samuel!" Samuel turned. "I'm sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry." Samuel looked at him for a long moment. "I forgive you," he said quietly. "If you're serious about changing, apply for the job. We'll see what happens." Then he left. Tony sat alone, staring at the card, tears streaming down his face. 2 weeks later, Tony applied for the position. He went through the standard interview process. Samuel didn't interfere. The hiring manager, a sharp woman named Faith, interviewed him along with 5 other candidates. Tony got the job. On his first day, he arrived early, dressed in a borrowed suit, carrying a notebook. Samuel welcomed him professionally. "Welcome to Second Chance Ventures. Work hard, be honest, and you'll do well here." "Thank you, sir," Tony said, head bowed. For the first month, Tony seemed genuinely reformed. He arrived early, stayed late, followed instructions, never complained. He worked on cold calls, client outreach, and basic administrative tasks. Staff members were skeptical at first. Some knew his story. But gradually, they softened. "Maybe he really has changed," Faith told Samuel one afternoon. Samuel nodded. I hope so. But Mrs. Adeyemi wasn't convinced. I've seen many men like Tony, she told Samuel privately. Some change. Others just learn to hide better. Are you saying I made a mistake? Samuel asked. No, I'm saying you should be careful. Grace is beautiful, but wisdom is necessary. She paused. I'm going to have our security team keep a quiet eye on things. Not because I want to catch him, but because I want to protect you. Samuel hesitated, then nodded. Okay. 2 months passed. Tony continued to perform well. He was polite, hard-working, and seemed grateful. But behind the scenes, something dark was growing. Late one night, Tony sat in his small apartment, staring at his phone. On the screen was Second Chance Ventures' financial dashboard, passwords he'd memorized by watching Faith type them in. His face twisted with bitterness. He humiliated me, Tony muttered. Made me beg, made me grovel. And now he parades me around like a charity case, like proof of his goodness. He opened a notebook filled with scribbled plans. If I can't have success, neither can he. Tony had been planning for weeks. His strategy was simple. Embezzle money slowly from Second Chance Ventures. Plant evidence that Samuel was committing the same fraud Tony had committed years ago. Then anonymously tip off investigators. When Samuel was arrested and the company collapsed, Tony would disappear with the stolen funds. Poetic justice, he whispered. He began the next day. Over the next 3 weeks, Tony executed his plan carefully. He created fake vendor invoices, small amounts at first, 50,000 naira here, 80,000 naira there, money that wouldn't be immediately noticed. He routed the payments to a dummy account he'd set up. Simultaneously, he began planting evidence. He used Samuel's computer login, which he'd stolen by installing a keylogger, to create fake emails discussing off-the-books deals and creative accounting. He forged Samuel's signature on documents authorizing questionable transactions. Everything was designed to make it look like Samuel was running the same scam Tony had run at Apex Innovations. Let's see how he likes being destroyed, Tony said to himself. By the 4th week, Tony had stolen nearly 2 million naira. Not enough to get rich, but enough to disappear and start over somewhere else. He planned to trigger the final phase on Friday, send an anonymous tip to the Corporate Affairs Commission, then vanish over the weekend. But he didn't know he was being watched. Mrs. Adeyemi's head of security, a former detective named Inspector Bade, had been monitoring Tony from day one. Hidden cameras, software tracking, periodic audits. By the 3rd week, Inspector Bade noticed irregularities. Ma, something is wrong, he told Mrs. Adeyemi. Money is moving in strange patterns, and there's activity on Samuel's computer login at odd hours, times when he's not even in the office. Mrs. Adeyemi's face hardened. Show me everything. They reviewed the evidence, the fake invoices, the planted emails, the forged signatures. That bastard, Mrs. Adeyemi whispered. After everything Samuel did for him. Should we tell Samuel? Inspector Bade asked. Mrs. Adeyemi thought carefully. Not yet. I wanted to catch him in the act. Let him make his final move. Then we strike. She leaned forward. But I want evidence so clear, so undeniable, that he can never lie his way out. Yes, Ma. Friday arrived. Tony came to work as usual, smiling, greeting everyone warmly. Inside, his heart raced. Today was the day. At 11 a.m., during his lunch break, Tony went to a cyber cafe, far from the office. He logged into an anonymous email account and composed a message to the Corporate Affairs Commission. Subject: Fraudulent activity at Second Chance Ventures. I am writing to report financial fraud at Second Chance Ventures, owned by Samuel Okafor. Evidence attached shows Mr. Okafor has been embezzling funds, creating fake vendor accounts, and falsifying financial records. Please investigate immediately. He attached all the forged documents, the fake emails, everything he'd planted. His finger hovered over send. Then he smiled and clicked. Done, he whispered. By Monday, Samuel will be finished. He deleted his browsing history, left the cafe, and returned to the office. That evening, he packed a small bag in his apartment. Passport, cash, change of clothes. Tomorrow, he would take a bus to Benin, then disappear into the country. He went to bed smiling for the first time in months. But at 6 a.m. Saturday morning, his door burst open. Police officers stormed in. "Tony Ademola, you are under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and forgery." Tony's blood turned cold. "What? No! There's been a mistake!" They handcuffed him and dragged him outside. A black SUV waited. Mrs. Adeyemi stepped out. "There's no mistake, Tony," she said coldly. "We've been watching you for weeks. Every fake invoice, every forged signature, every stolen naira. We have it all on camera. We have digital forensic evidence. We have everything." Tony's legs gave out. Officers held him up.
"You abused Samuel's grace," Mrs. Adeyemi continued. "He gave you a second chance, and you spat in his face."
"Please," Tony begged. "Please, I can explain."
"Save it for the judge."
They threw him into a police van. Samuel woke that Saturday morning to a call from Mrs. Adeyemi.
"Samuel, I need you to come to my office. Now."
Her tone was serious. He dressed quickly and drove over. When he arrived, Mrs. Adeyemi, Inspector Gbade, and several lawyers were waiting. "What's happening?" Samuel asked, confused. Mrs. Adeyemi gestured to a screen. "Watch this." They showed him everything. The surveillance footage of Tony accessing files he shouldn't have, the fake invoices, the planted emails, the forged documents, the anonymous tip he'd sent. Samuel watched in silence, his face growing paler with each revelation. When it finished, he sat down heavily. He tried to destroy me again." "Yes," Mrs. Adeyemi said. "And if we hadn't been monitoring him, he might have succeeded. The evidence he planted was sophisticated. It could have caused you serious legal trouble." Samuel's hands trembled. "Where is he now?" "In police custody. He'll be formally charged Monday morning. With the evidence we have, he's looking at 7 to 10 years in prison." Samuel said nothing for a long time. Then he whispered, "I gave him a chance. A real chance." "I know," Mrs. Adeyemi said gently. "And that speaks to your character, not his." "Was I naive?" Samuel asked. "Was I stupid to forgive him?" Mrs. Adeyemi sat beside him. "No, you weren't stupid. You were merciful. But mercy doesn't mean ignoring wisdom. That's why I had him monitored." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Some people change. Others just get better at pretending. Tony wasn't ready to change. Maybe one day he will be. But not today." Samuel nodded slowly, pain and disappointment written across his face. "Thank you for protecting me." he said quietly. Always, Mrs. Adeyemi replied. 6 months passed. Tony was sentenced to 8 years in prison for fraud, embezzlement, forgery, and conspiracy. The trial was quick, the evidence overwhelming. He had no defense. In prison, Tony changed. Not the fake change from before. Real change. He had nothing left to lose now. No reputation to protect, no schemes to run. Just time to think. And in that silence, the weight of everything he'd done crushed him. He thought about Samuel, the brother he'd betrayed, twice. The man who had washed cars and delivered packages because Tony stole his company. The man who had forgiven him, given him a job, a second chance. And how Tony had repaid that grace with treachery. For the first time in his life, Tony felt true remorse. Not regret at being caught, but genuine sorrow for the pain he'd caused. He wrote letters to Samuel, dozens of them, but never sent them. What could he possibly say? One Thursday afternoon, a guard came to Tony's cell. "You have a visitor." Tony frowned. He never had visitors. He was led to the visiting area, and there, sitting calmly on the other side of the glass partition, was Samuel. Tony froze. He almost turned around and walked back. Shame paralyzed him. But Samuel gestured for him to sit. Slowly, Tony sat down. He picked up the phone. Samuel picked up his. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Tony broke. Tears poured down his face. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "I'm so sorry. You gave me everything, and I tried to destroy you again. I'm a monster. I don't deserve to breathe the same air as you." Samuel listened quietly. "I don't expect you to forgive me," Tony continued, sobbing. "I don't even know why you're here. But I need you to know I am truly, deeply sorry. Not because I got caught, but because of what I did to you. Both times." He wiped his face with his sleeve. "You were right. Character is everything, and I have none. I've spent 6 months in here thinking about my life, about all the people I hurt, all the lies I told, and I hate who I became." Samuel let him finish. Then he spoke, his voice calm. "Tony, do you remember what I told you in the coffee shop?" Tony nodded, confused. "I said I believe people can change. Not everyone does, but some do." Samuel leaned forward slightly. "You failed. You betrayed my trust. You tried to destroy me a second time. And yes, it hurt. Deeply." Tony lowered his head, unable to look at him. "But," Samuel continued, "I also know something else. True change doesn't happen overnight. It happens through failure, through consequences, through hitting rock bottom." He paused. "You're at the bottom now, Tony. The question is, who will you become here?" Tony looked up, tears streaming. "I don't know," he whispered, "but I want to be better. I swear I want to be better." Samuel nodded slowly.
Then use this time. Read, reflect, face what you've done. And when you get out, if you get out early for good behaviour, come find me again.
Tony's eyes widened.
You would still.
I'm not promising anything, Samuel said firmly. But I believe in redemption. Real redemption. The kind that costs something. The kind that takes years, not weeks. He stood to leave.
Wait,
Tony said quickly.
why? Why do you keep forgiving me?
Samuel looked at him through the glass. Because someone once told me that grace isn't about what people deserve. It's about who we choose to be when we have the power to destroy them. He placed his hand on the glass. You tried to destroy me twice, Tony. I choose not to destroy you. That's the difference between us. Then he walked away. Tony sat there long after Samuel left, staring at his own reflection in the glass. Broken, but somehow hopeful. 1 year after the prison visit, Samuel's younger sister, Adeze, was getting married. The wedding was held in their village, a beautiful ceremony filled with joy, music, and dancing. Samuel funded everything, but kept it simple and meaningful. White and gold decorations, a small church, family and close friends. Former delivery colleagues attended, security guards from the mall, the gate man who let him rest, the old woman who tipped him 200 naira, Mrs. Adeyemi, staff from Second Chance Ventures. Even Mr. Bello, the whistleblower, was there. During the reception, Adeze asked Samuel to give a speech. Samuel stood, looking at all the faces of people who had supported him. Thank you all for coming, he began. 3 years ago, I lost everything. My business, my money, my dignity. I worked 3 jobs just to survive. People mocked me, laughed at me, threw money at my feet. The room was silent. But I learned something important. Wealth is temporary. Character is permanent. You can rise without stepping on others. You can forgive without being foolish. And you can show grace while still protecting yourself. He paused, looking at Mrs. Adeyemi. I also learned that the people who see you at your lowest often become your greatest allies. Mrs. Adeyemi saw me washing cars and gave me a chance. She also protected me when I was too trusting. He turned to his sister. Adeze, you reminded me that hard times don't last forever, that family is everything, that love is stronger than money. Tears filled his eyes. To everyone here, if you're going through something hard, hear me. Your current situation is not your final destination. Keep going. Stay humble. Stay kind. But also, stay wise. Applause filled the hall. As Samuel sat down, he noticed something on the gift table. A small envelope with his name on it. He opened it. Inside was a letter written in familiar handwriting. Dear Samuel, I am writing this from Kirikiri prison. I cannot attend your sister's wedding, but I wanted you to know I'm thinking of you today. 6 months ago, you visited me. You said true change takes years. You were right. I have spent every day since then reading, praying, and facing the man I became. It is painful, but necessary. I have enrolled in a prison education program. I am learning accounting properly, the honest way. I am attending counseling. I am trying to become someone worth forgiving. I don't know if you'll ever trust me again. I don't expect you to. But I want you to know that your grace changed me. Not the first time, I wasn't ready. But the second time, when you visited me in my lowest moment, something broke inside me. And I'm rebuilding. Thank you for not giving up on the idea that people can change, even people like me. Congratulations to your sister. May her marriage be filled with the same grace you've shown me. With deep regret and deeper gratitude. Tony. Samuel folded the letter slowly. Mrs. Adeyemi, who had been watching, walked over. Is everything okay? Samuel handed her the letter. She read it, then looked at him. What do you think? She asked. Samuel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I think time will tell. But I hope he means it. And if he does? Then maybe, when he gets out, we'll see. But wisdom this time, not just grace. Mrs. Adeyemi smiled. You're learning. I have a good teacher, Samuel replied. As the wedding celebration continued into the night, Samuel stood outside under the stars. He thought about the journey, the pain, the humiliation, the betrayal, but also the redemption, the grace, the second chances. And he realized something profound. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean being naive. It doesn't mean allowing people to hurt you repeatedly. It means releasing the poison of bitterness while still protecting yourself with wisdom. It means giving people opportunities to change while accepting they might not.
It means choosing who you become regardless of what others do. Samuel smiled. He had become someone he was proud of. Not because he was rich, not because he won, but because he chose grace without losing wisdom. He chose strength without cruelty. He chose to rise without stepping on others. And that, he realized, was the truest success of all. They say what goes around comes around, that karma is real, that the universe keeps score. And maybe that's true. But this story teaches us something deeper. Samuel could have destroyed Tony twice. The first time he chose forgiveness. The second time he chose wisdom and forgiveness. Because grace without wisdom is naivety, but wisdom without grace is cruelty. True strength is knowing when to trust and when to protect, when to give chances and when to set boundaries, when to forgive and when to walk away. Tony failed twice, but Samuel didn't. Because Samuel's victory wasn't over Tony. It was over bitterness, over revenge, over the temptation to become what hurt him. Some people will change. Some won't. Your job isn't to fix them. It's to become the person you're meant to be. Choose character over circumstances. Choose grace with wisdom. Choose to rise without stepping on others. Choose to forgive without being foolish. Because at the end of the day, the only person you need to be better than is who you were yesterday. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take from Samuel's story? Have you ever been betrayed twice by the same person? Have you ever had to choose between grace and wisdom? Tell us in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, thumbs up. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe and hit the bell for more powerful stories about redemption, grace, and strength. Remember, your current situation is not your final destination. Keep going, keep growing, keep believing. But also, stay wise.
Life stories with the innocent. Stories just for you. Ancient wisdom for modern.